Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 111, Edwin Carrion, Finding Balance in Life and Business, a God-Made Millionaire's Journey. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Edwin Carrion. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it, Matt. And to everyone listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the part of the world you're listening to and whenever you're listening to.
Love it. You covered all the bases. So Edwin is, first of all, I was doing a little digging on Edwin, checking out his social profiles, and he's got a decent following on Instagram, over 100,000 people. I got a lot going on Facebook as well. He is per his bio, he is a biz scaling expert. He's built a lot of businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, and so he's got a lot of experience in that realm, real estate specifically, doing a lot in that realm. And in today's doing a lot of mentoring, consulting, and I see he's doing a lot of speaking.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Yeah. So a lot to learn from this man in front of us. Now we are both, I'm heralding from Wisconsin, he's in Miami. So you can tell because I'm here in Wisconsin because it's cold and we're getting snow today. So I'm all got my sweater shirt on and he's got his t-shirt on. So I wish we could, switch places today.
Yes.
I should have came down there to have this podcast recorded.
I thought that's what we were doing. I was looking forward to that.
Then you got a call. So no, great. So what we do here on The Builders, where we start, is we start with your story, your journey. How was Edwin made? And well, we know you're God made based on your little tagline, but we'll get to that. But how did you become an entrepreneur? What was that journey like? Who influenced you? What influenced you? You can make this short, long, whatever you feel the audience would learn from.
Okay, Matt. Thank you for that nice introduction. I really appreciate that. And how was Edwin made? It's a great question. And I think everybody wants to listen more as far as the entrepreneurship side, right? So I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of entrepreneurs are made because of a need, not so much because we want to be entrepreneurs, but because there's always a need that comes along the way. And to me, my need was that I wanted to be successful, that I wanted to have money, that I wanted to be a millionaire, I wanted to be rich, and I wanted to have my Lamborghini that I always dreamed of as a little kid. So in order for that to happen, my first need came about when I was 14 years old, and it was the need of having a beeper. And not everyone around me had one. It was the new thing in town, and I had the need that I needed to have that. It wasn't so much as I want to have it, and I knew my mom couldn't give me that, and I didn't want to be a burden on her of asking her for it because she was a single mom raising two kids on her own. So when the need came out, I had to figure out, okay, if this is my need, how am I going to get it? And sure enough, living in an apartment, I looked down my window, I saw a bunch of cars, and I figured out a way. I figured out that if I were to wash a bunch of cars, I'm going to make enough money to be able to buy the beeper that I wanted. And that's how it started. That's pretty much how entrepreneurship started for me, washing cars at 14 years old.
Wow. So, but how does that idea come to you, though? Like, did you have people around you that were entrepreneurs or had businesses, or, what inspired you to decide, instead of me asking for money, I'm going to actually go out and earn
at that time, my mom has always been an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur and a hustler, right? Because we use the word hustler a lot. So while we were living in Ecuador, because I came to the United States at 12 years old.
Okay.
When I was living in Ecuador, my mom used to work as a receptionist in a hotel, but at the same time, on the side, she always used to hustle and do other things. And
Okay.
when she came to the United States, she worked as an insurance agent and she had her own business. So I see her work ethic. I learned from her a lot as far as her work ethic, working hard, having your own business, doing your own thing. And pretty much she has been my role model throughout my life in business, entrepreneurship, and everything else.
Oh, that's powerful. It's important. Not everybody has those role models. And in fact, I just had somebody on my podcast the last episode. He was talking a lot about that, where he didn't have that growing up, and how, how he still found his way. But so so you do this, and then you work your way through school. Did you go to college? Did you
Yes.
what did you skip that like a lot of entrepreneurs do?
No, actually, so it is a funny story on that. Um, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become an attorney, and I got arrested when I was 18 years old. So the moment that I got arrested, I had a change of life, a change of heart, and I said I started doing things the right way, going to college to become an attorney, and then 12 months after I finished my first year of college, I joined the Marine Corps. I went into the
Oh
Marines, the
wow.
military, and I had an amazing career in the military. I did 4.5 years, guarded the American embassies in different countries. I did an amazing training with the Department of State, CIA, DEA, FBI, you name it. I was surrounded by foreign dignitaries. I got to meet President Bill Clinton. So I had an awesome time in the military. But when I left the military, my goal and one of my personal goals was always to finish my education. Because to me, one of the things that you can make a lot of money and you could lose money. There's a lot of things that you could do in life, and those things could be taken away from you. But one of the things that I always talk and I always preach about is that they could never take education from you. So the one thing nobody could ever take away from you is your education, whatever you learn in life, whatever life lessons you have. So to me, it was extremely important. And also because I knew I was going to be successful, I said that I know I'm going to be successful and I don't need college to become successful, but I didn't want my kids not to go to college and tell me, but dad, you were successful and you didn't go to college. So I kind of made that a priority for me to finish my college, to get my bachelor's degree. So when my kids are older and adults, they understand that education is extremely important. And not only like it has to be a college education, but it could be like self-education or just through other things. But to me, that was really important. But one of the things that I do tell you is that even though I understand that college, the value of college is not where it is today, unless you want to become a professional, the college did teach me quite a few things that I use in my day to life and in my business nowadays, which is part of the structure, part of some things I put in place, Excel sheets, formulas, things of that nature.
Kind of built that
And
foundation
it
for you.
took me
Yeah.
it took me 10 years. I was in the 10-year path of getting my bachelor's degree, and it took me so long because while I was going to school, I'd also at the same time I was running a business. I was creating my business. I was growing as an entrepreneur. I was building my wealth. And yes, it was tough to do two things at the same time. But when we really want something and it becomes ingrained on us that, those are the goals that we're going to accomplish, there's sacrifices that we need to make. And to me, was a 10-year sacrifice that keep going, being consistent there until I finally got the bachelor's degree that you see behind my wall right there. And
Yeah.
I'm very proud of.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And forever you can say, I got it. I did it.
Yes.
You set a goal and you achieved it. Yeah. I love seeing that, like having that vision, having that idea when you said, I'm going to be successful. You didn't make it a choice. This was like a decision
Yes.
that you were going to do what you're going to do, and you had a burning desire to do it, and you went after it, and until it was done, no matter how long it took.
Yes.
So then, what was your after? So what business were you doing while you were going to college? Were you doing the real estate thing already, or what were you doing?
Yes, I was doing real estate development at that time, and then the market crashed. I went bankrupt, and after that, I
No.
started a gold buying business. So I got into the gold buying business, and I was going to college
Oh,
there.
I thought you said the gold mine business. I thought you got a whole gold mine.
No, no, gold
Okay.
buying, gold buying. So to
Okay.
everyone listening, like I mentioned at the beginning, I was born in Ecuador, so English
Yes.
is my second language. So you will hear me make some mistakes along
Oh,
the
that's
way,
okay. I thought
and
those
I'm
are fun
okay with
sometimes.
that.
I always want to. I have no problem because I have an international team. So trust me, this is a natural environment for me.
There you go. I think it's natural nowadays everywhere, right? I think everyone
Yeah.
embraces that nowadays. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, no, it was in the gold buying business, in the gold, the precious metal industry. And when I mentioned at the beginning, the reason it took me 10 years was because when I started that, I didn't have a plan of, when to finish it or how to finish it. My goal was kind of getting the bachelor's degree. But one of the things that I learned that was that while I was going on my 10-year path of getting the bachelor's degree, when I started my second venture, my second major company, which is into the precious metal business, the gold buying business, I got married and my wife got pregnant. And the moment that she got pregnant, that's when really I had to execute and say, you know what, I want to make sure that I get my degree before my daughter is born, because
Mm,
when she's born, I'm not going to have all this time that I have now. And in business is the same thing. A lot of times entrepreneurs start a business and they want to grow it but have no idea where to go, how to do it. And it's because there's no plan, there's no source of urgency on the way. And to
mm.
me, with the moment that I set my goal that I was going to finish before my daughter was born, which was June 2012, I actually graduated, I think it was May 2012 or somewhere a couple of months before, just before she was born, I graduated, I got my degree because at that moment I knew that I had to finish and accomplish that goal by that date.
So you think that's a really important thing for people that are going after any goal, but going to build a business or whatever. Because I feel that way. Like at this stage in my life, I feel like I've got more of a why now and more urgency in my life to build a great agency and working hard and around the clock, 7 days a week sometimes. But I have that really solid why, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there that they're looking for motivation, but how do you find that? Unless it's something like having a kid or something that's just naturally going to motivate you. Um,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm against motivation. I think motivation dies down, right? So it's
Hmm.
not so much about the motivation, it's about, like you mentioned a minute ago, the why, because the why doesn't give you motivation. It just kind of gives you the drive. I could, inspire you right now and get you motivated and say, oh my God, Edwin did it, he did this. And you get excited for
Yeah.
the next couple of days,
Get
you're
you
going to do
pumped up.
something.
Yeah.
But then the moment that
Yeah.
that motivation dies down, what happens? We become stagnant. So how do we do? And it's that drive, is the why of why are we doing this, and is the consistency of taking those consistent steps little by little. Like going back into my college education, it took me 10 years, but I was
Right.
consistent. I was able to finish it because I never stopped going to school, even though I was working my own business, trying to run my business, going through bankruptcy, going through this and that, failing class after class, having to start and drop from school again because I had to pay attention to my work and my business, and then starting up again every single time. But that consistency was there, and little by little I tackled it down until I finally decided to put a deadline to it and get my ass working on that, and I finished it. But it was consistency that was the key to that success on acquiring that bachelor's degree. And I think in every business has been consistency along the way, and repetition, and doing the same thing over again, and making sure that we have that plan. And nowadays, every time I start a business, I follow the same steps and the same process that I do from start to finish. And that's what makes my businesses grow so fast. That's what makes my businesses become successful. Understanding what the process is, what the systems are, and what steps do I need to take along the way. So I don't have to work, like you mentioned a minute ago, 24/7. Because at the end of the day, I need to have a balance in life. And I think a lot
Hmm.
of entrepreneurs forget about that. How do we have a balance in life? How do we, have a fulfilled life if all we do is just work, work, work? because our relationship starts to deteriorate. We start to forget about our kids and put them on the side and everything else, and we forget about ourselves, we are the most important things in our lives. Like, we always have to take care of ourselves first before anything else.
That's huge. So your balance is tough. And again, coming from a guy I'm in my fifth year building an agency, and it's been a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
And just actually this past weekend, it was a Sunday night, and I said, "Hi, wife. How you doing?" And she's like, "I haven't seen you all weekend. You've been working all weekend." I was like, "Well, I was ready for the weekend. What, it didn't start yet?" but yeah, I have that. But I certainly try to find that balance. I think it's a little bit different for everybody. Like right now, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm actually not stressed about that so much, because I know I'm building something, and the day will come while I can
Yes.
ease off the brakes a little bit. But finding that balance, what encompasses balance to you? Is it the spiritual, physical, spending time with your family? What do you think is most important to somebody, especially if somebody like me that's burning the midnight
Okay,
candle?
so the balance in life is making sure that we are fulfilling all areas of our life, right? Because a lot of times, and you're married and you can relate to this, we as men think our marriage is going great, and the moment we don't realize it's not going great, because there's a lot of problems that we're not focusing on, that we're having with our wives, right? Maybe the communication is there, maybe the spending time with them. Like you said, if you're working 7 days a week, how much time are you really giving to your wife? And relationships are like that. Like, if we don't give enough time to our business, how is our business going to grow? If we don't give our time to our kids, then we start losing the thing that is more important, which is the time, because we can't never get that time back. So, you know, 5 years down the road, like, you've been in your business 5 years, 5 years down the road, that you're putting all this effort into growing your business, but you didn't put the effort into your relationship, there comes a point in time that they get tired, things fail. So at the 6th year, when your business makes it, and you never foster and you never pay attention to that relationship, and that relationship goes away, now all this, you're gonna feel that you did all this work for nothing. So
Yeah.
if you're able to, you know, intertwine the balance into all of this, if you're able to have a great balance in your life, in your relationship, in your personal self, taking care of yourself, when you get to the peak of where you want to take your business to, you're going to be extremely happy, saying, wow, this was worth it, because everything is the way that I want in my life. And I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to forget that. We tend to work in our business. And I did that. And I was fortunate enough that I learned that at a very young age, before I was married, before I had kids. When I went bankrupt, I realized that happened to me, because I left the Marine Corps at 22 years old. I was a kid. And the moment that I left the Marine Corps, I was doing that, working over 60 hours a week, trying to grow this business, thinking of the money, becoming rich, having all this power and all this wealth. And sure enough, 2007 came around. I went bankrupt. I had nothing to show for. I made millions of dollars, like over $20 million dollars, and I had nothing to show for. And I look back, I'm like, wow, this really sucks. Like, I wasted 5 years of my life not taking care of myself, not eating good, not enjoying life, not spending time with my family, not getting close to God, having a good relationship with God, which is important to me. And I have nothing to show for. I just wasted 5 years of my life, and I can never get that back.
Yeah.
So at that moment is when I realized, like, you know what? This changes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna work. I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna make tons of money, but I'm gonna figure out every time how not to work as much.
Yeah. I can relate, because I've had, not as the size of businesses, I can relate, but I've been building various businesses for a couple decades, since my 20s. I'm 52 now. But I think about, as you were saying that, I was thinking about all those times I spent all those hours building these businesses that ended up failing, and what I lost from that. I wish I would have spent more time doing this or that and the other thing. I think one of the other things that I can kind of I think one of the things that we do as entrepreneurs and business people is we justify things. Like, I need to do this now. I need to make the money. I need to be the success. It's for my family. I'm doing this for her, right? So all this extra time I'm putting in and everything, I'm justifying it, saying she should understand why I'm doing it. Why I'm putting in these hours and have to make this money, and because it's for our future. But in the meantime, maybe I'm not spending as much time and focusing on what I have right now and having gratitude about what I have now, right?
Correct. And then at the end of the day, like you said, we need to stop the BS that we're doing it for her, we're doing it for them, because we're not. We're doing it for ourselves, right? So we need to kind of understand and have that clarity that, the reason we're trying to do this is because that's what we want. Because when I try to grow and when I start spending more time at work and I tell my wife the same BS, what does she tell me? It's like, I don't need that. I just want you, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of having that clarity. And my kids, and let me tell you, that because they're very spoiled on this way, when we have something, we always want more, right? And that's the human nature. We always want more. So I'm very fortunate enough that I work from home. I do everything from home, and I spend a lot of time with my family. I spend a lot of time. But the moment that I get to work a little bit more, that I'm starting to work a little bit more, my kids notice that I'm like, you're spending so much time working. And mind you, I only work like around 20 hours a week, right? So the moment I start working a little bit more, then my kids are like, Daddy, you're working so much. And it's not that I'm working so much, it's that they're so spoiled of me spending all this time with them. And that's a great thing to have, right? So I have to explain to them and tell them, because I'm doing this. But I understand that I never do that because of them, because what they want from me is time.
Right.
Not material things, not anything else. They want time. Like, they love for me to go out and play with them. And my wife loves for me to spend time watching a movie with her, just go bike riding with her. And life could be as simple as that. But we have to be aware that we build the things that we want because of ourselves. And what's important to us and how do we set those boundaries? What's important, because, sometimes you come to the office and you work 12 hours a day, right? And then there's times that you come to the office and you work 2 hours a day, and you're more productive than the 12-hour day that you sat in your office doing nothing, right?
Yeah, because you're more focused because you have limited time to get it all done. Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned was to always come in and be productive, be focused. So kind of limit my time in the office and be productive. And once I started doing that, I noticed an increase in everything else that I do, because I'm limited to what I'm doing. So now I have that pressure of, hey, Edwin, you only got 3 hours today because at 2 p.m. you have your date with your wife. So I got to do everything that I need to do in 3 hours that day. So like that, I could go out and spend time with my wife.
So that I was actually going to, because you said you spent 20 hours a week working.
Yes.
Right. You didn't. How did you get there? What does that path look like? Because you obviously, when you start a business, you probably weren't doing the 20 hours. You probably were spending a little more time. What things did you have to put in place? Systems, processes, probably a team.
Yes,
an assistant.
exactly. And that's where we talked about how to figure out not to work. Like, to me, I don't like to work, so I had to figure out how not to work. So when I start a new business, or when I buy a business, first thing to do is that, okay, what is it that I'm good at? What is it that I'm great at? And what is it that I'm not so good at? Because I am good at a lot of things. So they used to call me the jack of all trades, master of none, right? So I used to hate that before. Now I embrace it because it's good to be that type of person. It's amazing to know it all, right? Like you told me a minute ago, you wear many hats. So as you wear many hats, what are the hats that you don't like to wear? And start taking those hats off and giving it to other people. So like that, now you're focusing to what you are really good at. So if you in your business, if you're excellent in the sales department, focus on sales. If you in your business are good into the administration side, then focus in the administration side and hire somebody else to do the sales for you, because you have to do what you're good at and what you're great at.
That's good advice.
And that's how you buy your time back.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's a self-assessment of just figuring out knowing what your strengths are, what you want to be doing every day, And yeah, I think about my team as that's developed. I got developers, designers, and VA. I got somebody helping with marketing, doing content, and and I think I think it kind of organically kind of developed that way. It's like it's nice to have people to give stuff to. I don't really want to do that. You can go do that. You go figure that out. Yeah, yeah. That helps. But I think I as I listen to you too, though, is I kind of have this open-ended schedule of my days. I just work and keep working until it's the end of the day, and I don't have any more time. But if I actually defined those hours, maybe I would, like you said, be more productive and be forced to be more structured in what I do day to day, and have more time for my wife. Although sometimes I think she's doesn't want too much time with me. But
if you have that extra time, now you have time for yourself, right?
Right, go golfing.
Yeah, go golfing,
Some
because
stuff, yeah.
the moment that you start enjoying your life more, the moment that you start becoming more productive, the moment that the ideas flow. Because I notice a lot of times when I take time for myself, that's the moment that I become more creative. That's the moment that new ideas sparks. That's the moment that maybe issues that I was having at work, in life, in business, in relationships start coming to me, and the solutions start coming out. Because as entrepreneurs, what are we here for? We're here to solve problems, right? That's what an entrepreneur is somebody that solves problems. So if I have a problem and I'm sitting here trying to figure out the problem, it's never going to come to us, because a lot of times, when we focus on something, it doesn't work out. So, if you go out golfing, your mind is relaxed, you're at ease. To me, it's going out on the water on the boat. If I go on my boat, I'm at peace, I'm in mind, and then that my thing might come into my head, and the solution might be right there. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. And it happens so many times.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens to me too. It's funny. I got a recent story. I saw my time where I have a lot of inspirations when I'm walking my dog. I do that every day, probably half hour, 45 minutes. And I've had this. So I got a number of products too, like WordPress plugins and things we sell. And it's been a little. We as our agency's growing, there's a lot. And so I have to figure out what to cut and how, like we're doing too much. And I just got inspired by this idea, and I showed up the next day meeting with my marketing person. And I'm like, I got a big idea. Are you prepared? Are you sitting down? and it changed everything. You're consolidating some things and whatever, but it happened while I was walking the dog.
Exactly.
That's when just relaxing, not really thinking about anything particular. And it just kind of came to me. I'm like, I'm overthinking this. This is what we need to do. It's going to be way easier to market what we're doing, and it makes more sense for our business as a whole. And but yeah, and golfing too. Yeah, I got to do more golf.
Yeah, if that's what you like, if you're into golfing, do more of it. It was fun. I just did it for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I liked it.
Did you?
Yeah. Yes. I'm not, but I don't think it's for me. I'm more of adrenaline based. I'm still more into adrenaline. I think golf is a little bit too mellow for me still.
Yeah, for some people, yeah. No, I've always had that in me. It was like I was about 15 years old, 14, 15 years old when I picked up a golf club. And the reason I did it, though, is because I'd been in so many sports. Did baseball, did all this, track and all this stuff. And I was kind of on that side of it. I'm like, that seems like a really nice, easy, relaxing sport. I need that in my life. I need that relaxing part of my life. Being out in nature.
Right. And it's pretty nice. And I always hear people, I hear a lot of my friends, like it's a great networking place to be because you meet a lot of good people. And I didn't believe that because I'm like, you're playing by yourself. How does that work? And when I went to play, I was in Arizona just recently with a couple of friends. And we went golfing, and they pair us up because there's always like, was it 3 or 4? There's always 4. So you go in groups of 4 every time that you go play. And it was 3 of us at that moment on our group. And they put another gentleman with us. And again, it was a great connection, a great guy, business, they're doing business well. And, you can create those good relationships golfing as well. You meet people because it's an expensive sport. It's not a cheap sport. So you do meet those entrepreneurs that are there and could help you with your business or whatever you need.
It's kind of like one of those. I don't know if you've ever been part of like quick connects and stuff they have online, where you
Yeah.
go, you show up at these Zoom meetings and they pair people up, for like 7 minutes or something, and just to see if you have something in common. That's kind of what golf is. You just
Yes.
show up and hey, we're gonna pair you guys up, and who knows who you're gonna connect with. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about your businesses, like your real estate business. You said you've been in multiple businesses. Have you what type of businesses have you done specifically? Like just real
Okay.
estate or just
No, no, I
I'm just
have
curious.
done different business. So I was in the development business, real estate development business. I was into the precious metal business. Currently, as we speak right now, today, I own a real estate development company, which is my wealth creation vehicle. I own a transportation company, which is my cash flow vehicle. I own a technology company where we invest into the forex market and by the use of algorithms and robots, and that's
Wow.
my passive income vehicle. And last but not least, I own a business consulting and education company where I take entrepreneurs like yourself and I teach them how to scale and exit their companies, or teach them how to start a business and get to the millions. So pretty much that's what I do, and I love doing that because the last one is like my God-given talent, is a way for me to kind of pass on a legacy. Because like we spoke at the beginning,
Mm.
if I were to teach you something, nobody could ever take that away from you. So if I'm able to teach you how to become successful, you're going to pass that on to somebody else, and somebody else is going to pass that on to somebody else. So that's why I call it like the legacy building. But at the same time, I love doing that because at the end of the day, unlike a lot of other mentors, unlike a lot of other coaches, if you were somebody that I mentor, I will invest my own money with you in your business or in a development project, because I know if you do things the way that I teach you, you are going to become successful. So there's no
Yeah.
reason why I shouldn't put my money with you and invest with you into something that you're doing.
Excellent. I was curious about that because there's so many, and I hate keep comparing myself my small little businesses I've done, but it's very easy. You have these businesses, start making money at a business or something, and then but then you want to teach people. Some people just have that in them. I don't know if it's just natural. I just want to give back, or like I've learned this stuff, and there's a market out there for it. Maybe for that reason alone.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, always curious, because you're doing consulting, you're doing coaching. Like, why do those things rather than just run your businesses
Oh,
and
okay.
bring home some money? Yeah.
And I love that you asked this question, because the reason is because I make a lot of money in my businesses. The coaching doesn't make me money, right? Doesn't make me a lot of money. But many years ago, when I sold my first company, I told God, I'm like, God, please help me sell my company. And, I told him I was going to give my tie and everything else, like, as soon as I sell my company. And sure enough, the moment that we put it in the market, within 2 to 3 weeks, we had multiple offers. And we
Wow.
did a nice exit. And of course, I followed through with my promise. I gave the tithe to the church, and it was a large sum of money, right? And the moment that I gave all this money to the church, like, I didn't feel the fulfillment because I didn't see what I expected, right? So
Mm.
I'm talking to God. I'm like, God, please tell me why I don't feel like, how come I'm not like fulfilled? I didn't see that. And then God talked to me, and he told me it's because if you give money to someone, the money just goes away. But if you teach them how to become successful, they're always going to become successful. There's ways for them to continue making money. So at that moment, that part of me teaching others how to become successful, how to build a company, how to live an amazing life, how to live life to the fullest, like I call it, that came about. And at that moment is when I decided to kind of like start getting into like the path of teaching, mentoring. And then from there on, I realized that when you teach someone for free, it has no value to them. Therefore, they're not going to apply what you teach them. And it goes back into me teaching over 100 people in business and real estate. And out of those 100 people, maybe one person was successful because only one person really took that to heart and did what they
Right.
needed to do. And kind
Mm.
of going through that process, it always goes back to me. My mom worked so hard to put me through a private school. Again, single mother, raising two kids on her own, paying almost $3,000 a month to put me through a private school, and me being like a D and F student, being like the baddest student. I realized that it wasn't because I was dumb. I realized that it wasn't because I wasn't smart enough. It was because I didn't care. It wasn't my money, so it didn't cost me anything. It didn't hurt me, so I didn't put a value to the hard work that she was doing. And when I went into my 10-year path of getting my college degree, it was costing me money. I was working so hard in my businesses that I will take some of that money that to pay for my college credits, and I make sure that I paid attention. I make sure that I showed up to class. I make sure I did the work, and I was an A-B student. And I'm like, wow, I'm not dumb. I am smart. I just wasn't applying. And because it didn't cost me, it had no value to me. Now that I'm paying for it, it has a value. So I learned that way because I self-reflected in myself, and I noticed that that's how it was. So now my mentorship is paid. My mentorship is expensive. My mentorship is that if you're going to invest in yourself, it has to hurt you. It has to mean something to you so you could get whatever I'm teaching you out of it so you can become successful.
That's so true. I've spent a few thousand on courses in the past, and one in particular, even before when I started my agency, there was I think it was called Agency Accelerator or something. It was like a couple thousand or something, and I learned how it taught you all kinds of things about how to package services, and it was from a guy that ran agencies, and but I spent a lot of time on it because I was investing that money into it. But how much other stuff have I read or about agencies or building businesses and stuff that whatever, I just read it and forget about it,
Right. And as you grow, things like that happen. Like, for example, I could tell you when I really started investing in myself, like nowadays, if I see a program and I'll buy it and it costs me $2,000-$3,000, I'll probably just read halfway through it. I won't finish it. But the moment that I invest $10, $20, $30,000 into a mentor, I'm there. I'm consistent.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because now it means a little bit more, right?
Well, you want to get your return on investment, right?
Exactly. I
Now
want to get that
you're
return on
motivated.
investment. I want to build
That's
that
that
relationship.
urgency.
I want to make sure, yes. And that is the huge thing. So a lot of people look at things that way, that if it doesn't cost them and if it doesn't hurt them, they're not going to pay attention to it. So free mentorship is overrated because, as much as I want to give back to people, as much as I want to teach and educate people, they're not going to take advantage of it because it's free.
Yeah. And we've talked about this on the podcast with other guests and stuff that do coaching or whatever as well. I think it's that thing too. You just within this, there's that theme of you want to invest. You have to invest in yourself.
Yes.
Right. And these courses, even though it might be a few thousand or tens of thousands, that's an investment in yourself, and that's how you're gonna. Because we aren't born knowing everything. All of us have weaknesses and areas that we're not good at. Like you said, I mean, you're either going to find somebody else to do it, or you got to figure it out yourself, or learn it yourself, or become better in that area. So that's incredible. So and one last thing I want to kind of dig a little bit into. Take like 5 minutes here. Your faith, you call yourself the God-made millionaire, and you've built your kind of faith into your brand itself. Obviously, something happened along the way where either you found your faith, or it's always been there, and you just leaned into it. How did that kind of develop, that part of your brand?
Yes. Well, to answer your first question, God has always been in my life since I'm very young. I was baptized Catholic. Growing up, I went to a Catholic school in Ecuador. Here in the United States, I also went to a Catholic school. And the first encounter that I had with God was when I was 18 years old, that I mentioned to you that I got arrested. So the first thing that I did when I got home, I got on my knees. I'm like, God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for what I did, because a lot of my family members looked up to me, being the first one to graduate from high school out of my whole family, right? And so being on my knees, asking God to please forgive me for what I did. I'm like, I'm never going to do it again. I'm going to be the best person. I'm going to have the best values. I'm going to be like, from here on, my life is changing. And that day I felt God. I felt God touching me. I saw God and I felt him. And it's so real that that's what, it's just a moment that I felt him that day. So from there on, I had my relationship, and I mentioned, if you look at my military career, I had the most amazing military career. Like only maybe like the top 2 or 3% of the Marines get to experience what I experienced in the military. And it was that amazing. And it was right after that happened and everything else that happened. And me coming out of the Marines in debt and building this $20 million company, you know, it was God's work. But the moment that I started proclaiming myself as a self-made millionaire, I started talking, oh, I'm self-made. I didn't give credit to the people that helped me get to the top, because you don't get to the top on your own. Like you mentioned, the way that you're growing your business, you have a huge team right now that you're growing, right? So you're not doing it on your own, because none of us could do it on our own.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I wasn't giving credit to the people that were helping me. I wasn't giving credit to God. I was walking away from my faith. I wasn't, having the relationship that I have now with God. And I went bankrupt. And sure enough, what happens when I went bankrupt? The first thing I did is like, go back to God. God, why did this happen? Like I'm blaming it on Him. And I realized that it was to humble me down. It was realized that it was to show me that I wasn't self-made, that He could give me all the desires of my heart, as well as they could be taken away from me right away. So at that moment, I realized that, like, wow, you know that this is not how I need to live my life. This is not how I want my life to be. And of course, God came back in my life. I started building that relationship with God again. And sure enough, I had many past relationships prior to my wife. And, they all ended up into something good, something bad. But then God, when I wasn't looking and I was building a relationship with God, God brought this godly woman into my life. And just like I wanted her, like, all the details, beautiful, good looking, sexy, Colombian, but born in the US, like you name it, like what I put down in my vision board, it was exactly like that. And God gave me my wife, my godly wife that got me, she made me become closer and have a real relationship with God. And then, understanding that when I speak about my faith, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs are worried about that, speaking of their faith in their business, because they think they're going to lose a lot of customers. And when I realized, you know what? God taught me that there's abundance in this world. And the moment there's abundance, when I speak about my faith, the people that are in the dark places, the people that need help, they're going to come. And that's sure enough what started happening. And it's such an amazing thing that when I really started speaking about my faith through my business and through the things that I do, so many people started coming out and saying, it's like, how are you able to do that? Like, how do you speak about God and you're not afraid of it? It's going to hurt your business. I'm like, no, that's the people that don't want to work with me. I'm okay with that. I'm okay of not having the people in my life, in my business. And because these are my values, these are my beliefs, and I only want to work with people that share those things. And sure enough, like you start seeing that there's an abundance of that. And there's people that, one of the biggest moments that was when I went to speak in London last year. And while I'm talking on stage to over 300 people, I'm sharing my life story, I'm sharing my experiences, I'm talking about God. And I respect everyone's religion. So this older gentleman, he was 65 years old, and comes like, you know what? I never believed in God. I never thought, I never believed in God. And I think my life has been in dark for many years, and that's why I never accomplished anything in my life. How do I have God in my life? And he asked me at that moment, at 65 years old, like he wanted God to have a better life. Not because financially, but because he wanted a better life. And to me, that was like, wow, I am doing what God had set me out to do. That purpose that he had in my life for, which is to mentor, to inspire, to aspire, to help people grow. But at the same time, it's not only about helping you grow a business, but it's also making you understand that you have to have that strong faith, that strong belief in God and in yourself along the way.
And that comes back to the whole theme of balance, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's so easy. We're just talking about, building a business, and the wife is wondering where you are. It's the same with God. He's probably wondering where you are too,
Yeah.
So as somebody myself, I grew up in a kind of we had kind of a split family. So my dad and I were Lutheran, and my stepmom and stepsisters, they were Catholic, and we just kept it that way. It's still that way to this day. So we've had both faiths. But as an adult, I've kind of not been really close to the church. My faith is, I feel like I'm spiritual, but I'm not, so I've struggled with that in time. But but it's very inspiring hearing you talk about it and from your perspective and how that's impacted you. I was very curious about that. And it goes hand in hand with helping people, mentoring and inspiring people, and also being authentic, because I think, like you said, it doesn't matter who doesn't want to hear you or do business with you. You're attracting the people that do, that care, that are similar to you or want to learn from you. So Awesome. This was a great conversation. I feel like there's a lot more. There's a ton more we could dig into, but we don't want to be here all day. So if somebody is interested in learning more about you and maybe getting some mentorship or coaching or just hearing you speak somewhere, are you speaking anywhere recently? Any of that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. You could find me in my social media channel, Edwin Carrion 78, all the social media channels. If you can't remember that one, just remember edwincarrion.com. That's my website. I invite you to go to my website, download the free book that I have, which is called 9 Secrets for a Successful Life and Business, and join my free Facebook group, Startup to Millions, where you have a bunch of like-minded individuals that
I'm joining.
that want to learn how to grow, that have questions there. And I always say my mentor taught me a very cool thing, and he said, become an asshole. Ask, because you never know. Sometimes you might think that I'm not going to be approachable, but if you send me a message, if you ask me a question, I'll be there to respond. And thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you got one nugget from this conversation.
Hopefully numerous. Thank you, Edwin. Till next time.
Thank you for having me. Have a beautiful day.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.